I don't remember exactly when the war inside me began. It wasn't like a loud explosion or a sudden moment of collapse. It was quieter than that, like a slow leak, a whisper, a constant hum of unease beneath everything I did. I would wake up with a heavy chest, not pain, not fear, just weight, as if I was carrying a secret I didn't understand. No matter how much sleep I got or how smoothly my day went, that silent tension remained. I tried to explain it to a friend once, but the words stumbled out, half-formed, and they just nodded politely, not really understanding. It was the kind of struggle that wears no scars on the outside at work. I laughed. With family, I smiled. On the surface, I was functioning, but inside, I was constantly negotiating with myself. A voice would say, "You're not doing enough." Another would snap back, "You're tired. You deserve rest." Then guilt would creep in, and with it, doubt. Every decision felt like a burden. Every silence felt too loud. I blamed the world, the busyness, the noise, the expectations. But in quiet moments, when the world stilled, I realized the real storm wasn't outside, it was within me. One evening, my room was dimly lit, the fan above gently spinning, casting shadows on the ceiling. I lay on my bed, phone in hand, mind buzzing with scattered thoughts. Deadlines, memories, regrets, hopes, all tangled like threads I couldn't separate. I wanted silence, yet I feared it. I wanted peace, yet I didn't know what it felt like anymore. That night, I searched for something different. Not entertainment, not distraction, just understanding. I typed into my search bar, "Why can't I find peace even when nothing is wrong?" That question, so strange, so bare, led me down a path I hadn't expected. Among the results, one video caught my eye, a calm voice, no flashy titles, just the Zen story of the two arrows. I hesitated, then clicked. The story was simple. A man is shot by an arrow. That pain is real, unavoidable. But then he's struck again by a second arrow, the one he shot at himself in his mind. The arrow of blame, of worry, of anger. And it's this second arrow that causes the most suffering. I sat there, staring at the screen, the words echoing in my heart. That's what I'd been doing. I wasn't just living through moments, I was reliving them, arguing with the past, fearing a future that hadn't arrived, judging myself, doubting, holding on to thoughts like weapons and turning them inward. I was the archer, and I was the target. I closed my eyes and sat still. For the first time in what felt like years, I wasn't trying to fix anything. I wasn't trying to be anyone. I just breathed and listened. At first, It felt unbearable, as though the silence would swallow me. But then, something softened. A memory came to me. I was 12 years old, sitting by the pond near my childhood home. The sun had just begun to set, and the water shimmered gold. I had no plans, no deadlines, no fear of judgment. I just sat there, watching the ripples. I remembered how light I felt that day, how open that version of me. Still somewhere inside, I hadn't lost him. I had just buried him under layers of noise. I don't want to pretend I had some instant awakening that night. I didn't float into bliss, but something shifted. A small opening. A single step back from the edge. I realized the inner war didn't need to be won. It needed to be seen. I had been fighting myself in the dark. But when I gently turned on the light of awareness, I saw that my enemy wasn't real. It was made of thoughts, fears, stories I kept repeating. And just like that, in the stillness of my dim room, a breath deeper than any I'd taken in days flowed through me. A breath not bound by fear. A breath of surrender. That was the beginning. Not of a new belief, not of a strict routine, just of watching, of noticing, of being with myself without judgment. Even now, as I tell you this, I still hear the old voices, but I no longer fight them. I greet them like visitors. I offer them tea. I ask them where they came from, and sometimes they dissolve before they answer. Peace isn't something I found. It was always waiting beneath the noise. And all it took was learning how to stop and listen. A few days after that quiet moment in my room, I found myself wandering through a part of town I rarely visited. There wasn't any specific reason. My feet just led me there, as if some silent current was pulling me. It was a neighborhood, lined with trees, old houses, and a stillness that felt almost out of time. As I walked past a small, worn gate, something caught my eye. A faded wooden sign with delicate calligraphy. It read, "The house of no path. Enter if you carry too much." I stopped. I don't know why it moved me. Maybe because I was tired. Tired of carrying the same invisible weight day after day. Without really thinking, I pushed the gate open and stepped inside. It wasn't a house in the way I expected. More like a quiet garden with a shaded hut at the far end. The air was heavy with the scent of jasmine and old wood. And there, sitting under the shade of a Bodhi tree, was an old man in simple robes. His eyes were closed, but I could feel he had already noticed me. I hesitated. He slowly opened his eyes, and without speaking, gestured for me to sit on the mat beside him. I sat. Minutes passed in silence. Then, in a voice that was neither harsh nor gentle, but simply present, he asked, "What are you holding that you cannot see?" I blinked. I hadn't said a word to him, and yet it felt as if he'd looked directly into the center of my being. I opened my mouth to answer, to explain the anxiety, the guilt, the regrets, but the words felt too shallow. He didn't wait for me to explain. He said, "A man once carried a sack of rocks up a hill every day, thinking that at the top he'd find peace, but the top never came, and the rocks grew heavier. One day, someone asked him, 'Why do you carry them?' The man replied, 'They are my responsibility, my story, my identity.' He looked at me and continued, 'But rocks are still rocks, even if you name them duty or pain. When will you learn to set them down?' I didn't know what to say. He stood slowly and led me to a shallow pool beside the hut. Its surface was still, reflecting the branches above. 'Look,' he said. 'What do you see?' 'My reflection,' I replied. 'And if you drop a pebble,' I picked one up and let it fall. Ripples spread out. My face disappeared. 'That,' he said, 'is your mind when you believe your thoughts. Each idea, I'm not enough, I failed, I should have, is a pebble. The more you throw in, the less clearly you see yourself.' I stood silently. He then asked, 'Do you know the first illusion?' I shook my head. He smiled faintly. 'The belief that your thoughts are you. That every voice in your head is a truth. But they are clouds. You are the sky.' His words sank in slowly, like ink spreading in water. He continued, 'The world taught you to chase, to build an image, to prove your worth. But you cannot chase peace. You can only uncover it. And to do that, you must see what is not real.' We sat again beneath the Bodhi tree. He asked, 'When you feel anger, where is it?' 'In my chest,' I replied. 'And how long does it stay?' 'Sometimes minutes, sometimes days.' He nodded. 'Yet, if it was you, it would not leave, would not fade. But all things that rise also pass. What is true does not come and go.' It was the first time I truly questioned the storm inside me. Not just struggled with it, but questioned it. Where did it begin? Who was watching it? He said softly, 'You are not your wounds, not your fears. You are the awareness beneath them. The one who watches the waves, not the waves themselves.' I felt something loosen inside me. He rose again and handed me a small object, a mirror, its surface dusty. 'This is your mind,' he said, 'clouded by beliefs, by stories you've repeated. But wipe it clean, and you will see nothing is missing. It never was.' I looked down at the mirror. My face was dim in the reflection, and yet I understood as I stood to leave. He spoke one last time. Let go of what you think you are. Let the illusion dissolve. Then you'll find that the peace you seek has always been sitting beside you, quiet, patient, and untouched. I bowed, unsure why, but it felt natural. When I stepped out of that place, the world hadn't changed. The streets were still dusty. The sounds of distant traffic still buzzed faintly. But something inside me had shifted. The inner war hadn't ended. But now I saw it for what it was. A play of shadows. A series of thoughts flickering on the screen of consciousness. And for the first time, I smiled. Not to please someone, not to hide anything, but because I had begun to see the illusion for what it truly was. After I left the garden of the old master, something inside me was quieter, not empty, just still. The usual background noise in my mind had softened, as if someone had turned the volume down on all the voices that used to clamor for attention. But, of course, the thoughts came back, as they always do. I noticed myself reaching again for control, for explanations, for the need to feel certain. Only this time, I paused. Dusty, unclear, yet holding a promise. If wiped clean, it could reflect the truth. So I began watching myself. Not harshly, not with judgment, just watching. I saw how quickly I reacted when someone spoke in a tone I didn't like. How I tightened when plans didn't go my way. How memories, things long gone, still tugged at me as if they had power in the present. And I realized I was clinging to opinions, to outcomes, to the idea that things must happen a certain way for me to feel at peace. Letting go, that phrase used to feel so vague to me, almost impractical, like something only monks in caves could master. But now, I saw it differently. Letting go wasn't about losing anything. It was about seeing that I was never holding what I thought I was. One morning, as I sat in my room, I did something simple. I breathed deeply. Slowly, I placed both hands on my heart and whispered, "It's okay to not know. It's okay to let go." At first, the words felt foreign, but I kept repeating them until my body believed what my mind couldn't yet grasp. That day, I went for a walk near a quiet lake I'd visited in childhood. The water was still, barely a ripple. I sat by the edge and watched the sky reflect upon it, perfect, undisturbed. A single leaf floated gently from a tree and landed on the surface, spinning slowly as it surrendered to the wind. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is not defeat. It is the highest form of strength. The courage to stop grasping and begin trusting, to allow life to unfold without fighting it every step of the way. I remembered a quote I'd read in a book once: "You can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass." I closed my eyes and repeated that to myself. For years, I had tried to manage the storm, to rearrange everything around me, hoping it would bring peace inside. But now I could feel the beginning of another way, a softer way. It began in small moments. When a thought came, like, "You should be further ahead in life," instead of engaging it, I let it pass. Like a cloud across a blue sky. I didn't chase it. I didn't fight it. I simply breathed. When someone disappointed me, I allowed myself to feel it without constructing a story about what it meant or why I deserved better. I breathed into the feeling and let it move through me like a wave. It wasn't always graceful. Some days I failed. Some days I clung again to control, to fear, to the safety of my old habits. But each time I returned to the breath, to stillness, and slowly I began to notice something beautiful in the space that opened when I let go. Peace entered. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic transformation I once hoped for, but a gentle, steady calm, like warm sunlight filtering through trees. I began to listen more, not just to others, but to myself, to my body, to the quiet voice beneath the noise, the one that had always been there, waiting patiently for me to stop trying so hard. There's a story I came across about a monk who held a cup of tea. Someone bumped into him and the tea spilled. The monk smiled and said, "Whatever is inside the cup is what spills when it is shaken." So, if anger is within, anger spills. If peace is within, peace spills. That story stayed with me. I asked myself, what is in my cup? And I knew the answer. That is why I began letting go, not because life demanded it, but because I was tired of spilling pain when what I truly wanted was to hold peace. Letting go became a practice, returning to awareness, returning to now. And as I did, I began to rediscover the quiet joy of ordinary things, the sound of birds at dawn, the way sunlight dances through leaves, the feeling of warm tea in my hands. Stillness was not something far away. It was not hidden in monasteries or retreats. It lived in each moment. I chose not to react, not to cling, but simply to be . To trust the unfolding . To rest in what is, and most of all, to remember that I am not the storm. I am the sky that holds it all. That night, I turned off the lights earlier than usual. No background music, No phone beside me, glowing with notifications. Just the quiet hum of the ceiling fan and the breath inside my chest. Steady, soft. There was no dramatic shift. No enlightenment flashing like lightning. Just the absence of urgency. A stillness that had been quietly growing in me for days now. Like a small tree finally beginning to bloom. I lay down and pulled the blanket over my chest. My palms resting loosely at my sides. Eyes closed. And with them, the world closed to dot. And yet, within, a new world began to open. A world without the need to fix, to solve, to become. For so long, I had treated sleep like an escape, a way to run from the noise of the day. But now, it felt different. It was no longer a doorway out, but a return in, a return to myself. Not the self shaped by opinions and outcomes, but the self that is simply here as I lay there. Breathing into the silence, a strange and tender thought came to me. I have nothing to prove. I don't know why. That thought brought tears to my eyes. Maybe because I'd been chasing approval for so long, even silently, unknowingly in everything I did. I had built castles in my mind, made of expectations, trying to live up to stories I thought would earn me love, safety, peace. But tonight, under the quiet dome of darkness, I saw it clearly. I don't need to be anything other than who I am. Right now, this body, tired, this heart, healing, this mind, learning to soften, and all of it is enough. I began to reflect, not with regret, but with understanding, on all the nights I had fallen asleep with clenched fists and a clenched soul, worried about tomorrow, haunted by yesterday. Nights when my body rested, but my spirit wandered in restlessness. But tonight, I could feel myself arriving, not at a place, but a presence. And within that presence, something beautiful happened. I forgave myself. I forgave the version of me that didn't know better. I forgave the times I spoke too quickly or stayed silent when I should have spoken. I forgave the fear, the overthinking, the need to control. I even forgave the parts of me still learning how to let go. It wasn't some dramatic ceremony, just a gentle whisper inside. It's okay. You were doing your best. As those words settled into me, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. A quiet joy. The joy of being, nothing more. I imagined the lake again, the one I had visited earlier. In my mind's eye, the surface was glassy, the moon reflecting perfectly. A single breeze passed through the trees, and the ripples danced, not with chaos, but grace. That was me. I wasn't aiming for perfection anymore. I was learning the dance, the ebb and flow of life, the beauty of just being present, even if that presence held sorrow, uncertainty, or fatigue. I turned gently onto my side. The pillow cradled my head like a soft embrace. And for the first time in a very long while, I didn't feel the need to rush into sleep or resist it. I welcomed it like an old friend, a wise friend who arrives not to pull me away, but to return me home. Home to the breath, home to this moment, home to the silence where I am held by something greater than understanding. And in that silence, I heard it, not with my ears, but my heart. You are safe now. You are whole. You are already enough. My breathing slowed. My body softened, and slowly, gently, like a leaf drifting to earth, I let go, not just of the day, but of the weight I no longer needed to carry. Not just of thought, but of the illusion that I needed to be more. Sleep took me in, not as an escape, but as a sacred return. And in that stillness, where time, thought, and self dissolved, I finally understood. Peace isn't something I fall into. It's what's left when I stop falling away from myself.